All right, welcome to today's live stream. In this one, I did have a request for doing a foot study, and they were asking for a simplified foot study, but I think half hour to an hour is a good amount of time just to do a study of the foot. It's very complicated, similar to the hand. There's a lot of flexibility in the foot, a lot of joints, a lot of anatomical things going on, and so this is a great thing to practice. I'm going to be practicing on this wire armature that I've built, and if you want a lesson that goes over this method for building wire armatures, you can find that on the Proco 3D YouTube channel. If you just search wire armature, it should be the first video that comes up on the Proco 3D channel. And with this method, it's the cranial unit system, and so the top part of the leg is 3 units, the bottom part is 3 units, and the foot is half a unit behind the joint of the foot for the back of the foot, which is important, and then 1 unit for the front of the foot. So the foot is typically about 1 1/2 cranial units. But of course it depends on the person. Some people have large feet, some people have small feet, but that's just an average for that cranial unit measuring system. Now for this, I'm just going to lay this guy down, and we'll put this foot up this way. Well, should we do the bottom of the foot or the top? I don't know. I don't know how I should approach the foot. But, well, maybe we're usually looking down at the foot. So let's do this. I want to do it so that in a way that's easy to access. Let's maybe have this. There's a pose where the foot is kind of front and center. Maybe he's bending down, gonna tie his shoes or something. About to tie his shoes or pick up something maybe. Okay. And let me zoom in just a little bit. So as references, I have a page from the book. This is Constructive Anatomy by George B. Bridgman. This is a great resource. If you're going to get a book from Bridgman, I would get the Complete Guide to Drawing from Life. I think that has all of his drawings, or the majority of his drawings, and it's all in one book. But this is the Human Machine, and I really like his method for representing the figure. It's very sculptural almost, the drawings that he has. So let's start by just adding a thin layer of clay onto this wire armature. And again, like this is 3 units, half a unit back behind the joint of the ankle to account for the calcaneus, which is that bone that's at the back. You can see that bone right there is that. Let's see. Right here on the skeleton, you can see that large bone of the calcaneus that reaches back behind there. That's an important thing that a lot of people forget about, and it makes their feet look less accurate. I'm going to thin this up just a little bit so that we have room to put the clay. Okay, I'm going to try to zoom in quite a bit. Okay, so there we have the foot. How I like to start almost all of my sketches is just adding a layer of clay onto the armature. So we're just going to do that. Just a thin layer of clay onto the wire armature. And we did do, so the study that we've done or been working on was this guy in the past couple sessions, and this did have a couple, feet that were just starting to get outlined in this quick sketch. That was a fun thing. But in this one, we'll try to just focus on the foot primarily. Just like the hands, the feet can be very expressive. They can be very, have a lot of flexibility, more than most people realize. There's quite a lot in the foot. Okay, so now we have kind of a simplified, almost like a I don't know, a hammer or upside down hammer, or like one of those crutches that they used to have, where this would be the top part of the crutch, where you put it in your armpit and then have the crutch that goes down. Something like that. And now we're going to, let me actually bend this down, and we're going to think about the shape of the foot from below. And so on the inside of the foot, there's the big toe. We can just add an indication of that. Starting over here, it's actually going to come out. And next to the big toe, there's kind of this, a large mass that's connected to that large toe. So we're going to add that large mass right there. Then on this other side, it's kind of curved, and this side opposite the big toe, there's this fat pad here and the arch of the foot. So when the foot is relaxed, that arch will be more pronounced, and then when it goes on to the ground, it kind of flattens out. That arch gives us some kind of a spring or cushion. That arch, so on this side, there's kind of this rounding off that comes from this fat pad of the foot, and then there's this large fat pad here where the bones are coming down. Somebody says, mi trabajo ha mejorado mucho. Gracias por compartir. Saludos desde Colombia. Saludos. Just saying that my work has improved a lot since I've started watching readings from Colombia. Readings from Romania. Thank you for the content and sculpture. Yeah, no problem. I enjoy creating it. Glad it's been helpful. So we're going to kind of round off this foot to the heel of the foot back here. This is going to be very rounded on here, on the, is this the ball of the foot? Is that the back, or is that the front? I don't remember. The ball of the foot always gets me confused, whether it's the the back of the front. But the heel area right here, we're going to round that off quite a bit. So you can see just by adding, you know, an indication of the big toe over on this side, rounding off this side, and then putting little pads on either side there, so that there's a little bit of negative space here for the arch of the foot. Just by doing that, the foot is already looking more like a foot. So you can see even before I've added anything to the top of the foot, I'm starting to get an outline for the bottom of the foot that looks a little bit more accurate. And this foot might be we might be sculpting this a little bit large, but that's okay. It'll help us see things a little bit better. And then different people, you know, the toes round off in different ways to different people, but I'm just gonna give a rough indication of where what's happening with those toes. Right there, something like that. Okay, so that's kind of the bottom of the foot. Now let's turn it to the front side, and we'll look at the foot from the side view. And there's a lot of, especially when the foot is in this neutral position where it's about 90 degrees, there's a lot of arch, you know, a big swooping, almost like just a big swooping curve that connects the lower part of the leg, the front part of the leg, with the top of the foot. And it's a lot more soft and rounded, that line, that outline, than we realize. It's a very soft transition from this front part of the leg to the foot. A lot of people will add like just a sharp transition, but it looks funny because that's not what we see. And then the bones of the foot, there's quite a few bones and things happening in this area. I'm actually going to bend this back just a little bit so it's more neutral. There we go. And so I don't have so much room on that back side. I felt like this was traveling back too far. And then for the muscles, you know, the muscles that attach to this Achilles tendon here at the back of the foot, there's the gastrocnemius, which is the calf muscle, and that's kind of the muscle of the lower leg that we all think about when we think about the calf. But then underneath that, there's another muscle called the soleus, and it's called the soleus, like the sole of the foot, because it's shaped kind of like a sandal is what the shape of the muscle. It's like this long, flat muscle, and both of those come together and attach to that tendon at the back of the foot, the Achilles tendon. So I'm just going to give a little bit of an indication of that, how that's happening back here. So there's the representation of that tendon that comes down. And we'll add a little bit of the calf muscle, but this isn't a study of the calf. You know, if I start to do the whole leg, then it'll take a little bit longer. But let's just do a little bit of this bottom part, a little bit of the soleus, which would be coming down. And it kind of softens that transition from the gastrocnemius, or the calf muscle, to that bottom of the lower leg, where it transitions to the foot, that tendon. Yeah, there we go. Gonna add just a little bit to the front as well. Somebody says hi, hello. Welcome to this live stream. Okay, so from the side view, let's see, starting to look a little bit better. Let's still add just a little bit more to this fat pad where the bones are kind of touching down to the ground on this side. So add just a little bit more to that. And I'm gonna kind of wrap this around as like a mass that is like a C shape right here. Something like that. Oh, we got an alarm going off. What is that? Okay. Let's see. Okay, from the side, that's looking a little bit more accurate. So you can see how that swoops down quite a bit, maybe even a little bit more. Bring some more clay down. And this, the top part of the foot is more towards this high point right here. It's more towards the toe, the big toe side. It's not like right in the middle of the foot, so keep that in mind. That the high point of this little peak right here is a little bit closer to the big toe, or it's on the big toe side when you're looking at it from the front view. Okay, now let's look at it from the front. And we're going to add in the ankle. And so from the back, let's see, looking at the reference. So the inside, or the big toe side, the ankle is higher up. And the outside, or the little toe side, this ankle joint comes down a little bit lower. So So you can see the ankle joint on each side. But just keep in mind that it's, let me change the... So you can see that makes an angle. That ankle joint makes an angle that's going down towards the outside of the foot. And then the fat pad, let's see, so there's the bones of the back of the foot, that calcaneus. And then there's the fat pad that kind of wraps around like a donut that's kind of hugging this part of the foot here. So I'm just going to wrap that piece of clay around to represent that fat pad that's wrapping around back of the foot. And then over here, on this pinky side, there's the form of the bones of the foot, the top of the bones of the foot, like the back of the hand would be on the, if it was, we were talking about the hand. The back of the foot, or the dorsal, it's the dorsal part, meaning the back part. There's kind of a form that the bones make, and then it transitions to this soft, rounded fat pad that we've laid in on the bottom of the foot. So there's kind of like a hill for those bones, and then another hill for this rounded fat pad as it transitions there. Maybe I probably should have just done this separate from the entire body armature. Should have just grabbed a little piece of wire. But, oh well. And then, now that we have this in place, I'm going to thin out this area for the toes so I can start taking pieces of clay and lay it in as the toes. And I'm going to give a little bit of a separation between the big toe and the rest of the foot. This is something that I've seen Leroy Transpield, he does this where he kind of gives more of a separation maybe than would actually exist, but it kind of helps as we're observing the foot. It helps to just give a little bit more information. So I'm just going to do that to say this is the separation between the big toe and the other toes. I'm also going to put a little bit more mass on this side. As I'm looking at this from above, it looks like it could use just a little bit more mass behind that big toe. And over here. Then I'm going to take little coils of clay. Little tiny coils of clay just like that, and then wrap it around this mass that represents these little toes, just to say, like, this is that's a toe right there. So you can see how that starts to look more realistic, more like the toes when I just put a little piece of clay to say that that's one of the smaller toes. Let's keep going. One, two. And then if you're doing this, I recommend setting a mirror down on the floor and then at like an angle so that you can see your own foot, so that you can observe your own foot and move it around and look at your toes. And that's a good way to observe from life when you're doing this type of foot study. And the toes travel back a little bit more than what I'm showing right here. So let me just lengthen that form of the toes. I'm trying to hold it so that you guys can see, but then I cover the light. That's frustrating. Let's see. So I'm taking a piece of clay. Laying it there to lengthen the toe. It's back a little bit farther. And then sometimes the little toe is more kind of off to the side, kind of curls around towards the bottom a little bit more. A bit of a different angle than the rest of the toes. Yeah, I think toes still feel a little bit small. Going to widen the foot a little bit. By adding some clay to this fat pad right here. As well as this mass on top. I want to push it. I want to push this plane out a little bit because I feel like I don't have enough room. And for the underside, I'm just going to take some of this clay and kind of tuck it in a little bit just to say that this is like the end of the foot, and then these tips of the toes underneath would be like little balls, little rounded forms. Something like that. Okay, so I think as far as a simplified version of the foot, I think that's a good place to start. And if I was going to continue to develop this and work on the details and start getting more specific about the exact shape of the toes and their relationship to the rest of the foot and the muscles and everything, then I'd want to have a reference, either a series of references where I could turn the foot in space, or have a mirror and be looking at my own foot. But because I don't have that right now, I just have these drawings. I think that's a good representation of the foot. And so I'd recommend doing one of these studies somewhere between half an hour to an hour, and be sure to give yourself enough space back behind the ankle joint for the back of the foot. Remember the shape of the foot from this bottom part. There's the pad that's kind of this C shape that wraps around the big toe on this side, and also how those fat pads are related to the bony structures of the foot and the space in between them, the transition from the top of the lower part of the leg to the top of the foot, as well as on the back side. And if you can get those things in place, let's see, I'm also going to add just a little bit of clay onto this big toe while I'm seeing it. But if you can get all of that in place and roughly the right size for those features and the right proportion compared to the other features, then your feet will start to look a lot better. And so that's what I recommend trying. Give it a try. Sculpt the foot. See how it goes. Look for these features that I've tried to talk about as we've been sculpting. Look, observe it from different angles, from above, from below, all over. And yeah, hopefully yours turns out well. Okay, if you're interested in sculpting, be sure to check out the Figure Sculpting Fundamentals course. It's the course that goes over everything I wish I knew when I started sculpting. Portrait sculpting course is also great. More advanced course goes more over anatomy and a little bit more in-depth on the portrait and the muscles and fat pads and all of that kind of stuff. There's also a hand sculpting course, which is useful if you struggle with the hands, which we all do as artists. They're very difficult. So if you're interested in those, be sure to check out those courses in the link, and I appreciate anybody that gets those. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Stay creative, stay productive. Hopefully I'll see you again soon in another video.